Things always happen, and sometimes it makes our plans go completely awry. But for Andy, it seems that the world is completely falling apart when her internship is denied after her father becomes involved in a very strange political scandal. Andy has been planning this internship for months, going to Johns Hopkins Medical School to learn about becoming a doctor, something she has dreamed about since she was a little girl after her mother passed away from cancer. But when this internship is taken away from her, her entire life seems to completely crumble. Everything she had worked for, everything she had planned goes up in flames, and she doesn't know exactly what to do. So the only thing she feels like she can really do to make the most of her summer is to start dog walking. In Morgan Matson's novel, The Unexpected Everything, we follow Andy on her adventures as she becomes a dog walker and hanging out with her friends over the summer and meeting all kinds of new people and having a little bit of a romantic fling here and there. So if you guys watched my 24-hour readathon vlog, you guys will know I read and finished this entire book in 7 hours from midnight to about 7:15 in the morning, and I had made a little clip talking about how exactly did Morgan Matson exactly make a character that was exactly like me in terms of what happens when things kind of go wrong. I identified with Andy so much because I am very much a type of A personality like Andy is. Things are always done to the T, things are always planned ahead and are prepared for, and when things don't happen to where those plans go through, we get very, very antsy and we get very, very anxious and things just seem to fall apart. So I really identified with Andy in this because I don't find that, you know, many authors in contemporary YA focus on that kind of a thing where there's this overwhelming fear of things going wrong, and they even actually talk about spiraling. Although I couldn't exactly identify with her in other respects that are mentioned in the novel, but this was a really big idea that I think needed to be expressed in YA literature, and I'm very glad to see that somebody actually wrote about this whole idea of losing your mind when things don't really exactly go the way you plan. I absolutely loved this novel so much, just beyond the fact that I identified with Andy. The characters were awesome, especially the supporting characters like Andy's best friends, and the relationship with her dad turned out to be such an interesting kind of dynamic relationship. It was so cool to see all these different things that all seem to really meld together so much, and Morgan wrote in a really good way that made it seem very real without being too blunt and without being too flowery at the same time. It was very clear, it was very concise, it was very much how I imagine Andy would have been able to write this as if it was in a diary form. If this had been in a diary form, I definitely feel that the entire story would have been the exact same as far as how she would have told it. I think my most favorite part of this story wasn't even exactly the story itself, it was more of the actual dynamic relationship between Andy and her three best friends, Palmer, Bree, and Toby. They were so freaking funny because parts of the novel there was actually text conversations between them, and they just, oh my god, they are such a freaking riot. It was hilarious. This book I think was definitely much more humor based than anything else, as opposed to it being so super focused on the romantic aspect. Although there was a lot of that in the novel, I definitely think it focused more on just Andy's relationships with different people that she's been with for most of her life, and it's just a really interesting story to see the differences in the way that she is with each individual character. The friendships between individual characters is different from the next. Authors tend to do the same thing with the same friends a lot of the time, where they have one character who is doing these same exact interactions with each character that they come across, which is not true. You have a very different set of jokes and a very different set of interactions with different people that you are interacting with. And so I really liked how Morgan really stayed true to that and made sure that Annie's interactions with, for instance, Miller was way different than her interactions from Toby and from Bree and from Dad and from her friend Clark. Everything was absolutely different, and it really made the story come to life much more because I really truly believed there was some kind of a different kind of a relationship between each of the individual supporting characters and the main character herself. As far as the overall dialogue for Andy herself, in just mostly like not the inner monologue but the narration of the story, I found it so compelling because Andy is one of those characters where she's very stubborn. She's very much a type A personality, like I said. She's very stubborn and wants things done her own way. But over the course of the novel, you really start to see her kind of open herself up more, and she really starts to let the people in that she normally wouldn't have let in before. And that's partially because of the fact that throughout her life she had to be very guarded. Her father's a politician, so everything about her was monitored. She had to make sure that she wasn't doing things that were going to cause her father to be placed in a bad light. So it was really interesting to see that over the course of this novel, that not only did her personality change, but even the way she would speak of certain characters and speak of herself really did change over the course of the novel, because she was much more open-minded. She became much more kind of unguarded as opposed to how she was in the very, very beginning. The only thing I really had to say that I was a little disappointed in was the type of relationship between Andy and a guy named Topher. And it wasn't that I didn't like the relationship, it was just I wish that there had been a little bit more added to them, because Topher was a very big part of Andy's life, as it's mentioned in the book, but I don't want to say exactly how because that ends up spoiling it. I just wish that there might have been a little bit more play into their relationship, exactly how they got started and how they really had kept in contact. He's not really mentioned too much throughout the book except for the very beginning and then much more towards the end. And I don't know, I just feel like if he was maybe sprinkled in a little bit more and they gave a little bit more about the relationship, the kind of relationship that is between him and Andy, it would have made it a little bit more interesting. But there you guys go, that is my review for The Unexpected Everything by Morgan Matson. I really didn't want to get too much into this because mostly I would be gushing over the characters and the story and everything, and I really wanted to try to keep this as short as possible. So overall, I rated this book a 5 out of 5 stars on Goodreads because I just really loved the story. I really think that this is something that I'm going to come back to because this is the first character I have found that I truly identify with, that I feel like I can constantly refer to in any case when it comes to talking about things about, you know, anxiety and feeling like everything's gonna fall apart if you don't get things done the way you need them to. But thank you guys so much for joining me in this review. I hope you guys did enjoy it. If you did, please do give it a big thumbs up, and if you're not already and you'd like to be, hit that button down below and subscribe to become an owlet in our flock, and I will see all of you guys in my next video. Bye guys!